This is the Reverend Dr. Gilberto Rosado. Dios lo bendiga. Este es Reverendo Dr. Gilberto Rosado. Welcoming you to another broadcast. At this hour, we have our bilingual broadcast, our teaching in English and Spanish. So we ask that you be patient as we translate live on the fly between languages. Esta es la hora que damos la enseñanza en inglés y español y pedimos que tengas pues paciencia mientras que traduzcamos de un idioma al otro. Aproveche y aprende el otro idioma. While we're at it, you can learn the other language as well. Es un beneficio de sintonizarse con nuestro ministerio. It's a benefit, an added benefit I should add, of tuning in to our ministry. And welcome to our show today. I was going to say that in Spanish, but the fact is we're not doing it. You get into the habit. We're not doing English and Spanish together any longer, so the bilingual teachings are not happening as a unit. The Spanish teaching is separate. Those who understand or are learning English or Spanish are encouraged to listen to both, because I'm not saying the same things. So simply, if you want the breadth of what I'm teaching in these areas, you really need to go into the English one, listen to this, but also do the Spanish one, because like particularly last week, I said things in the Spanish that I didn't go into in the English. So there's always things, since I'm not translating one through the other. Okay. Lo que están buscando lo de español, por favor buscan el video en español. Ahora en adelante estoy dividiendo las enseñanzas en su idioma. Okay, so we've covered that. I covered the reasons why we did that before and why I'm doing this now. It's really my personal convenience each time. Although this is, even though some may say it's better, in some aspects, it's actually worse in terms of the cognitive benefit that I know the bilingual teaching brings. But people don't realize that, and you guys don't want to sit around for 2 hours listening to things. You don't want to stress your mind, which is unfortunate. But again, that's another topic for another day in another video, I guess. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about the upcoming Atheism Must Move Beyond seminar. This is going to be part 2. It says part 1 there, but this is actually part 2 that's going to happen April the 27th at Adria Hotel and Conference Center in Northern Boulevard, Queens. The admission is free, so you have no reason not to sign up for this, but you do need to register. Registration is required. And just to cover a little bit of what we're going to be discussing, this is one of the slides from the seminar itself. First of all, I always give an introduction of who I am. The second is a recap of part 1, which happened in October the 28th of 2023. That's when atheism actually died. Okay, a lot of people have had issues with my hyperbole, my use of hyperbole. It's a usage. It's for marketing. It's slogan. It's for some of you. It trolled you, but the point was to bring to the head that what I am bringing out, it means and signifies the death of atheism as most people know it. Okay, this it doesn't mean they say, "Oh, we're still here," but I didn't say it was the end of stupidity. Stupidity continues. And people who choose to ignore instead of recognizing the true facts that I brought out from the Merriam-Webster dictionary, no doubt. So these are the things that are being ignored. And instead of addressing the issue, they're attacking my person. This is what's been the result, the aftermath of the seminar. That's part one. Wait till you get part two. So now part two is happening. Unlike the first one, this is in a bigger place. It's a more formalized presentation. So it's getting bigger and big, and was the snowball effect is palpable that you can see as this thing is developing, right? So that's all. I'm just saying that it started on October the 23rd, 2023 by moi, and obviously with God's input and command, believe it or not. So here it goes. And I also have some numerology also, but we won't get to that we'll do that probably in part 3. All right, but anyway, here you go. The third thing we'll be doing is the proper perspective of this discussion and why. I think a lot of the issues with atheism or the atheist versus theist debates is the fact that everyone has a different and erred perspective. We have to get, when you're dealing with the Bible, as with all the interpretations of the Bible as well, a lot of it has erred perspective to account for its existence. Excuse me. So we're going to cover what is the proper perspective and why. Then, and the proper perspective actually answers all the questions that atheists throw out there, and over which theists keep tripping over themselves. By the way, this seminar is for believers too. It's not just atheists. Both of y'all need to come and hear this and get your notes together, because theists also make big errors, and I'm pointing this out. This is why this debate keeps going around in circles and circles. And one of the main reasons to that is the proper perspective is not recognized. And when you see that, when you have the proper perspective, all the answers that atheists or challenges that atheists and theists have, because they're trying to find an answer to this and that and how to respond to this or that posit, all those fade away. They all go away once the proper perspective is had. So we're going to cover that. We're also going to cover what are the basic claims of the God of the Bible. G-O-T-B means God of the Bible, right? G-O-T-B, God of the Bible. What are the basic claims? We're going to go through that, again, in light of the proper perspective, which we covered in the previous section. Very important. So again, this goes down into destroying a lot of the objections, because most of the objections are based on the wrong premise and the wrong perspective. So you're going to get this. Now, the next section, and you're going to say, well, why should we believe in any of this? Well, the next section is, are they conceptually valid? Conceptual validity is evidentiary. So for some of you, this verbiage, which means the words I'm using, it may be a little bit foreign to you, or a little bit high and up-endy. But the issue is that these are things that are not in the discussion, and they're not in the discussion on purpose. Because simply, if you bring in the issue that part of evidence is conceptual validity, that things that are conceptually valid are as much evidence as things that are proven fact, now that makes a difference. And that's what it is. So a lot of the atheistic positing and some of the theistic rebuttals are straw man based. So this also is addressed in It was addressed in part 1, but it's going to be more so evident and clearly so in part 2. You're going to really see the straw man by this time when we start talking about conceptual validity in part 2. It's going to be very clear to you. Okay, next is, what are the major problems with the Bible and religion? Because of late and throughout the ages, there have been many questions about the biblical record and the composition of Scripture, both Old and New Testament. So we're going to go into this very, not in-depthly. It's only an evening seminar, but I'm going to give you the general truth of the matter, and that's going to be covered in the major problems with the Bible and religion. And then number 7, is there any basis for a reasoned belief in God? And we're going to give you and show you if there is any solid reasoning for a belief in God. So by the end of this, moving beyond atheism, because we're talking about the atheism pre 1028-23, you're going to be moving beyond that through this seminar. This seminar will show you without a shadow of a doubt what the biblical posit is, in fact. Not the stories, not what people understand about it, what the Bible is standing on and what God is declaring in the Bible, right? What is the posit? What are the facts that the claims establish? And when taken all together with the facts, historical facts, the sourcing facts, the original sources, and all of these things taken in all together, you're going to have a very clear, both atheists and theists, a very clear handling of the Bible and the God of the Bible. They're very clear. All those questions, slavery, killing, sending them to kill women and children, and all the most horrific things. Why we're suffering? Why do we suffer? All these things are going to be clearly comprehended after part 2 of this seminar. Part of this seminar also will have questions. I'll take Q&A, be written down. They'll be selected, not because I'm trying to weed out the big questions, but I want to get the big questions. I want to have a good representation of things and not repeat things I already covered in part 1 and part 2, where people not listening. So they make a question because they weren't listening at the time or understanding. So I won't cover those types of questions, but yes, the questions that add to the substance of the seminar, those things will be answered after the fact. There will be virtual access, so you don't have to go to New York and be there in person. You can see it through the internet, but you have to register in order to get the link. Okay, so that's the information. I wanted to give an extensive preview of that seminar in New York City. And again, pre-registration, don't wait for the last moment, and especially if you're going to be in person. If you plan to be there in person, do not wait for the last minute. Do it now. It's free. Tell me I'm thinking about being there in person so that at least I know what to prepare, because I'm perfectly fine being on the internet and sitting in the hotel room. Beautiful. If I got a couple right there, wonderful. If we have a larger group, then I'll retain some larger rooms. It's as simple as that. It's free. I'm not going to pay a theater and just to be there for 2 or 3 people. So again, this is again according to those who come and register. All right, but the damage is done. The damage was done 10/28/23, and now it just gets worse for atheism. Now, atheism was right. If you guys, you guys are missing out on some great teaching here. Atheism was proven right in the first seminar. right? So again, you missed out on that. I showed you why and where, and theists have to pay attention to this because the conversation is going to move forward, like it or not. So this is what's happening. Atheism is on its deathbed, and I'm pushing it over the cliff as we go along. And so this will, and my organization will continue working on that through the years ahead, whatever's left. Some of people are believing that Christ is coming soon. I was waiting for him, 30 years ago. Still waiting today, and that's fine. Beautiful. This time is here, fine. If it's not, we're still heading in the direction that we need to go, and we will be, focused on defeating the atheistic ignorance. It's really not a hard thing. It's not like atheism is something. It's like darkness. It isn't a thing. It is simply the absence of light. So in terms of atheism, theism, it's really, atheism is the absence of the knowledge of God. That's all. This really is. It's very simple. And in my book, it's very simple to defeat this. It's just that the theists have not been focused on the keys. And they themselves may not have it because these are the guys who eventually end up being atheists. But anyway, we're not going to get to that. I have on the channel, I have other little atheism comments and topics that I address. So you guys can, and you'll hear basically what I'm talking about. Dealing with that topic, but not all of what I'm doing in the seminar. Alrighty, so let's get started today. Today, I promised to go into glossolalia, and that is what we're going to do. So join me. Open your Bibles. Look for the scripture. And again, we're using the Social Evangelizer. I'm a software engineer. I pushed and pulled my way into it, and so here I am. Like it or not, at whatever level I'm at, but I'm good enough just to get, not just to do this, but I also have games and stuff that I'm doing, a network of gamers, but I'm not going to talk about that. But the fact is that here is my Social Evangelizer software at version 23.0, and we're using this to do the broadcast. Right now, what you see here are the windows. It uses Windows to do certain things, to access resources online, and that's what this does. And basically, it provides training through video sources, etc., etc. There's a lot of things also inherent in the software. There are graphics that continually get updated, memes for you guys to use, and also it has access to our university. It has also text that you can read, rewrite it if you like, or just copy and paste as a reply in your apologetics. And this is, again, it's a work in progress. It continually gets updated. More things are added. We are also always, inviting experts to use this facility and to have, conduct their training and, provide the users access to their ministries or their posits on how to do apologetics or how to answer certain types of questions. And so these things are also always getting updated and added to. So right now we've already done that. Later on, I'm going to promote. I'm doing this during the Sunday teaching hour for next week. The one that's going to be playing today as I'm teaching this is already loaded up on YouTube and ready to go on schedule. But before it goes, I have to promote a little bit, so I'll be either pausing the video when I do that. But I just wanted to point it out that I do have here in the software, if you note, and see how I can put the software away easily, right? I can just make it whatever size depending what I want to do. But here I have the promote tab, and that allows me to promote. And when I'm doing broadcasting or podcasting, I have this tab which will give me a suite of utilities to use for doing a recording, a video like I'm doing now. And so that's basically what's happening there. And also we go by users' suggestions as well. If someone has a particular resource that they need, and it would be good for them to have it pop up into the user interface here, to have it pop up as a click of a button, then these are things I can add to the software. So all I have to do is make a request and these things can get added. All right, so I just wanted to share that also with all of y'all. So now, and we also have the book over here. Just another thing, if you guys are interested in writing books, this can be used to write your books. Book content writing tab here. It opens up a set of suites. If you can see, duplicate line removal, YouTube transcribing suite, artificial intelligence assistant, and rewriter suite. Opens up different types of tools, groups of tools that help you accomplish the work of writing a book. And we've always been developing a book writers club, if you will, where people come and help each other develop their ideas and produce and even submit some parts of a manuscript so that it can be incorporated into a larger work. And this is collaboration, and we have a system set up for collaboration for book writing. It makes book writing easy, especially the first time book that the people would want to do and have difficulty getting started. It's just a perfect thing to have, and the club to join in order way to get it moving along and make sure you get done, and it gets done at least, and you get your feet wet, and then you go on from there. All right, so that being said, let's get into where we're going to be. Here we have the Bible Gateway, our premier tool. Make your way out there to Bible Gateway and give these guys a donation for their great site here and for making that available. So what we're going to do today, we're going to do glossolalia, as I expressed, in the series How to Identify the True Religion. You already know that I have already said in the previous lessons that there is no true religion. That is not what God established. God established the truth. See what, like Jesus said, and you shall know the truth. He didn't say, and you shall know. Excuse me. And he said, you shall know the truth. He didn't say, and you shall know the true religion, or that you will join the true religion. He didn't say that. He said, and you shall know the truth. It's very peculiar. And some of you will say, well, he didn't need to say that because he was in the true religion. It was the Jewish true religion. Yay, yippee, yay. Okay. But again, it falls short of God knowing all things. How do you know the truth? How do you know? You see, because if God knows all things, he knows, or he would know, that if Jesus didn't specify the true religion and which one that was, that all these Gentiles would be, sticking in whatever they want to stick in there. It's like open-ended, right? Now, either God left it open-ended. I'm showing you how to think. Either God left it open-ended because he had Alzheimer's. He's been around a long time, after all. He's not clear in his speech. Or he intended, and Jesus, vis-a-vis Jesus, intended that the truth be said. So therefore, in other words, that it surpasses any religion. The truth surpasses any religion. It is in itself its pure reality. So that goes beyond any one religion. So in a sense, so since we cannot believe that God has Alzheimer's and just forgot to detail which that was, even knowing that people will get the wrong idea later, this is the problem that a lot of the religions have, is that they have to make God seem a little deficient. God has to be deficient in one way or another, and that he forgot to mention it, like in the case of the Sabbath between Genesis 2 and Exodus 16. Oh, how did we forget for all of these years? So you create stories to fill in, the backfill, the absence or the lack in Scripture for the support of the religious belief. Or that you have to make God into someone who doesn't know how to write a book, simply doesn't know how to tell the story. And so there's again another frailty that we impose on God, and we have to excuse. Apologetics shouldn't be apologizing for apparent deficiencies for God, to cover up for God's Alzheimer's. I mean, let's face it, we're not. God isn't Biden, and everyone's trying to cover up that he doesn't know where he's at. What's happening at certain times of the day. So we don't need to do that. God does not suffer from that. So this is the issue, that what confidence do we have? Well, if God is God, then he does not suffer from inadequacies. So humans needing to, or religions needing to make up for these inadequacies is a surefire, tip-off that there is error, because they are trying to justify an erred thinking and an error in their belief system. They're trying to use the Bible to support some errors, and they need to stretch out the Sabbath so that it covers Genesis 2 through Exodus 16. It's just a fact, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, and then you have people in these religions don't admit to it. It's just, you guys don't admit. You guys like the lies. You like the falsehood. You need it because you base your connection to God. And the reason for that, they base their connection to God based on this error. You have to stop. You have to stop. Do not force the error based on that your need to connect with God, or your need to justify your connection with God. You don't need error for that. You need to get away from the error. It does not affect your relationship or your connection to God. I should say connection, because there ain't no relationship. Your relationship is with a belief, not with God. So people need to get this thing straight. This is why I did this series in the first place. Because many of you are not understanding that you need to develop a relationship with God, not with your religion, not with the creed of your religion. It's a relationship with God. And many times the creed of a religion, of an organization, the beliefs, the books they write, their teachings, the dogma, many times interfere with your connection or development of a relationship with God and replace it. So they're putting their teaching as a replacement between you and God. So this satisfies, since you don't have, and we haven't taught you how to have a personal relationship with God, we have this. You have this to believe in. And anyone who doesn't believe this will go to hell. You will be excommunicated from the group. Because first of all, they excommunicated you from the world, right? The first is this, and from family support that you have outside. So after they got you trapped and separated from your friends and support, the things that God made, you have to understand the things God made and said that was good, they go and separate you from all of them. And after they do that, now if you don't follow this thing that we have created here under God's authority, then you will be excommunicated. So now you're stuck. You have no place to go. You see that? This is called control, total control. You can't be in that situation. It is inhuman. It is not what God wants. You can see that in the scripture. God never says for you to be, disassociated. Even Jesus says, love thy neighbor, love your stranger. Love them. They're strangers. So you're going to denounce your family over the faith? You know you're wrong. And I'll get back to my topic today. But you know you're wrong if you in any way have to shun your family. Because that is nothing that God wants. And you cannot have a connection. How can you love God, even Jesus said, and hate your brother? This is say if he is Christian, or if he is Jewish, or if he says your brother. And he's talking about your familial blood, your family. So again, and you have to have either the intelligence or the internal testidura, which means hard nuts in a very liberal language, to stick to your guns and not allow yourself to be entrapped in a religious belief that destroys the family. And even though they keep saying, oh, we promote the family, if one of your family members gets lost, they says, let him go, that's it. He's excommunicated. Well, that's not the lost sheep. That's not the pastor who goes after the one sheep that got lost from the herd. This is a very anti-biblical type of understanding. And when it does use biblical scripture, it is used in the wrong light. This stuff is we're going to cover in this little mini series on identifying the true religion. Okay? So that's, again, something that we're going to cover. Now, in glossolalia, why are we doing this now? We were doing Noah last week, for goodness sakes. And we showed last week that Noah's flood, the rising of the ark, with the water level, the destruction of all humanity and all life on the earth, and the ark, they were safe. Their salvation was the ark. But also note that their salvation was rising up. So we have a picture, and it's important that you understand this, that there's a picture of the saved. Who were the saved? Noah and his family. They were saved, and there was 8. The number 8 has a meaning, right? One of the meanings is eternity. 8, it's the number of infinity. You turn it to the side, that's infinity. It means never ending. So you have a salvation that is never ending, rising up into the sky. So this is what the picture of Noah's flood is. That's the teaching. It doesn't matter if it happened, it didn't happen, this or that. That's not the point, is it? The point is that the teaching is that salvation is, I think, of being risen towards eternity. Hence, those in there were 8. The number 8 applies. And what it teaches applies to them. Applies to the teaching that it's eternal. This is eternal salvation that's being depicted here. And so this is what you have to realize. Any teaching, obviously, that goes against Noah's flood Like, has the ark. There's some of you, Jehovah's Witness, for example, believe that everyone else will be destroyed on the earth except for them. So it means that destruction will come up to here, stop, go over them, and then continue to destroy everyone else except for the Jehovah's Witness. That's their concept. But that's not Noah's flood. That's not what God is teaching in Noah's flood. Noah's flood is rising, the saved being risen up into the heavens for eternity, number 8. So that is what the picture is showing you. So the way that the Jehovah's Witness, and I just pointed one out of many different views, but the Jehovah's Witness view on that is anti-biblical. It's not according to what God is teaching. And these are very early teachings. These are the basic foundational. Why are they first in the Bible? Think about that. Why are these stories the first things you read in the Bible? What is the first thing you put when you're building a house? You put down first a foundation. And everything else is built on top of these, foundational things. These are solid. So you can't have Noah's Ark teaching salvation by being risen up towards eternity, towards heaven, and then have any other type of doctrine which goes against that. This is not a New Testament concept here. And that's one of the other points that you have to realize. We're not talking about the New Testament here. We're talking Old Testament. And not all just Old Testament. We're talking Torah. We're talking the first things. These are the foundational underpinnings of anything else that happens in the Scripture or can be taught from Scripture. So that's it. So basically, any religion, any belief that doesn't have the saved being risen up to heaven for eternity is not what God is teaching. It's simply that simple. Okay? Or terrifyingly that simple, depending on your case. And that's that. Now, you can either be honest, and intellectually honest, and say, first things, they're the foundation. And again, why would that be a difficult thing for you to do? If God is if you have the relationship with God, if your focus is with God, why would that be a difficult thing to accept? It's only difficult to accept if your relationship isn't with God, but with your church, with your belief system, with the religious dogma that you've been taught. See, and that's the issue that you have. It isn't an issue of someone's trying to take me away from God. No. The issue is that the truth, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. But it's setting you free from what? Jesus, now we go like to Jesus, he was a Jew, right? So what would they be set free from? From their own religious nonsense. So Jesus was telling the Jews that their religion, the Jewish religion, that you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Because religion imprisons you in error. And if you're not willing to be set free by the truth, then what are you doing? You're wasting your time, because you're developing a strong relationship with religion, with your religion, with man's traditions, and not with the God of the Bible. Okay, so that's my admonition pre-teaching today. Now, it's important, I mentioned something before about painting or drawing the picture. Because today we're going to do some drawing. Because drawing, I don't know why more adults don't draw. I can't draw for beans, you're going to see that today. but I do draw in my head. In other words, I can see the concepts in my head and manipulate them in my head far better than I can do it by hand, and you'll see that today. But I think it's a good exercise for us to draw things out, so it helps us to think better and to be able to reason, right? So, and again, so let's go looking at our next phase in the Bible. Let us look here. Let's see. Yeah. It's Genesis chapter 11. It's after Noah and the flood. And you're going to pay attention to something here very interesting. Now, and again, why are we talking? Because some people are freaking out now because they know what glossalia is speaking in tongues. Why are we speaking in tongues? Why are we talking about that and now we're in Genesis? How is this happening? Okay, so we're going to see. Because again, we have to look at what identifying the true religion. It just happens that there's a group of people out there that are speaking tongues. And we have to understand, what does that have to do? Where does that have anything to do with the Old Testament and with and especially in a foundational case study, in a foundational sense? So here we're going to look at 11 of Genesis, still foundational. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. Right? There was no need for the gift of interpretation of tongues. What's going to happen a little differently today is that I'm going to bring in the future together with the teaching. Noah's flood had the future in it, right? Which we just explained was about the salvation. That's what the teaching of it is. What's happening now in the Bible, and it was that way from the beginning, is that you have to ask the question, what is God teaching? What is God trying to teach with this? See? So that is something that you have to look at in the scripture. What is God trying to say with this? What is the teaching of God with this? Okay? So, and by asking that question, then we can go into Scripture to see if there are any correlations, correlated material that God uses in the Bible so that we can then have some understanding of why God brings this story into, the Bible, and especially at such an early stage. Genesis 11, very early still. And again, how is this related to those other things? So we already see a time of something that affects religion in today's world. Glossolalia, speaking in tongues. Speaking in tongues can be expressed as speaking in languages. Speaking in languages, right? So you have the correlation to Genesis 11 in that Genesis 11, everyone spoke with one language and one speech. Okay? So that is the focus of Genesis 11. Let's continue reading. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. Okay, so they had brick and mortar. And they said, and notice the focus on they said. They said. People talking, people planning, people developing. And go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven. See that? Now, why would they want to build a tower to reach up to heaven? Did they want to save on travel expenses and not having to buy a ticket on a passenger airline? Of course not, right? We're not trying to be silly here, but you got to think about what was this issue? Why couldn't they just build a city, period? Why they have to build a tower particularly to reach unto heaven? And so you begin to see that what God is talking about. You begin to understand this, because when you look at ancient cultures, the holy places and the emphasis on the altars, the name altar comes from high place. That's what the name or the word altar means. It means high place. It could be a mound is higher than the ground around it. It could be a higher thing, but is considered a holy place, considered a connecting facility, a connecting vehicle or a way to reach the holiest places, to be where the gods are, right? We're going to use that paganistic concept or understanding. We reach high. This is where the gods are. No man can reach up this high. All of us men are lowly creatures walking upon the face of the earth. But coming up here, that's a big deal. You know, the thrill of being up, some of you remember climbing trees when you were a little kid. I don't remember that. I was too big, too wide to be climbing up trees. But, I have children here that love climbing trees. They want to be up there. They feel like they have power. And so, again, bringing all these people together to build a tower to God is the basic concept. Now, it doesn't matter. It's interesting, because here, God doesn't say they were building a tower to reach me. This is where a lot of people, atheists, also misunderstand things. God wasn't saying, these people are trying to reach me here, right? Even though these people, were they trying to reach Yahweh? Of course not. They were trying to reach higher levels where, higher levels of power and prestige. If they had gods that dwelt in the heavenly places, they were trying to reach them. Wasn't Yahweh, wasn't the God of the Bible they were trying to reach. They were trying to reach their gods, be like them. Okay? But why is God paying attention to what these pagan worshipers with false gods, why is God mattering what they do? Right, and this comes down to the reality of the situation between pagans and the God of the Bible. What is the truth? Look at what the truth is. Verse 5. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, or are one, right, today. And they have all one language. Look at what God is paying attention to. And this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. Do you see what God is pointing out? You see that? Now, where are the other pagan gods that these people in their imagination were trying to reach? And this is the interesting thing, right? They're not there. The only one that's there is the God of the Bible. And that's the realization that everyone, even Christians, have to realize. There's no pagan deities. I mean, as a matter of discussion, just like darkness, when we talk about darkness, it sounds like it's a thing. But really, it isn't. It isn't anything. It's simply a lack of light. So you have to understand what the truth is, because you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. And the truth is, there are no pagan deities. Of course, pagans had deities. But I'm talking about in reality. I'm talking about, are there actual deities vying for the worship of their followers, in spite of God, of the Bible? And the answer to that is clearly shown to you here. There is no other. These are the imaginations. Now, it doesn't mean that the devil and the fallen angels are doing nothing but twiddling their thumbs, waiting for the end times. That doesn't mean that. Obviously, they're going to be using these imaginations to further distract man from the truth. So these imaginations are the pagan gods. And what did the pagan gods represent? The pagan gods represented lack of knowledge. I think everyone can agree with that, including atheists. Because atheists said, well, the gods were invented because the people didn't know science. So they had to fill in the gaps of knowledge with the gods. So, fine, beautiful, exactly. That's what they did. So that's what pagan deities represent, lack of knowledge. But I go to tell you, they're still pagan deities, right? To that extent, there's still stupidity. In other words, the biggest deity that man created, and that's still here, is stupidity. That seems to be a god that no one wants to let go of. So that's still around, right? Even though there is ample education, ample knowledge to be had, ample facts to glean, we still have a veneration of stupidity in society today. I think it would be at the same degree. To the same degree you have pagans worshiping gods, false gods, we have stupidity today. There's no difference. There's not been a difference. It continues. Stupidity continues to be the mainstay of human pagan worship. Whatever it is that you are worshiping. And it could be simply knowledge itself. Because the pagan deities were simply replaced or filled in with knowledge. So therefore knowledge is now also a pagan deity if you place that before the truth of the God of the Bible. It becomes a pagan deity, all your knowledge, because you're using it as a covering, as a replacement, as an excuse for not believing the God of the Bible, for not believing his holy scriptures. So that is what's happening there. Now, before you get on Holy Scriptures, you really know where the Bible came from? It doesn't matter, because you're not understanding what holy is. For that, you have to go to my Holy series to understand what holy is. Then you need to know what education is, what's involved in education. And once you do that, then you'll realize, you won't come back to me, because then you'll realize, holy cow. Then you'll get it. But again, most of you are not going to sit down and listen to 150 hours or so of the Holy series so far, and I still got a lot to go on that. But you see it here. Now, you see that there's no pagan gods showing up, nothing. It's simply the Lord. Now these guys, so that means that everyone was worshiping pagan gods and doing that. Ain't nothing happening. It's only the Lord going down to see what are these people up to now. That's it. What are these people up to now? Right? There's been many reasons people postulate of why God called himself Elohim, plural, gods. Right? But one of the posits that I present is that because he is the gods. Everybody's imagined God was always the one and only true God. Simply you gave him another name, you gave him some other responsibilities, part of his responsibility, you gave it to this imagination of yours, but it was always God, the God of the Bible, period. So this is one of the things that the God of the Bible is clarifying in his scripture who the true God is. There's only one, ain't no one else here. So this is the reality that you have to see in the scripture, because this shapes everything else. You got people and religions based on pagan deities. This and that is pagan. That and that, that's a god, a pagan god. That belongs. You see religious people actually giving things, powers and authority to some non-existent pagan deity. It's ridiculous. And this again shows you what the false religions do. They need to create these false and keep these false gods going in order to give their religious ideas some sustenance. But those religious ideas are based on error. And that's why they need the pagan gods, because they have errors that need to be supported. Okay, but again, when we get to them, I'll show you that. You'll see that. But now, behold, there ain't no other God coming down. There's no other God here involved. Everybody's doing something in a vacuum. And the only God there is said, behold, the people is one. And they have all one language. One language. There's no glossolalia happening in here. Okay? And the issue was that now there will be nothing will be restrained. So what is the power of language? What is God telling us the power of language is? When we all share one language, okay, one language, and a good language, not bad language, not cursing language, not that BS language you guys learn in school, but good quality verbiage, good language, good communication. When they all have one good communication, the people as one, all having good communication, good reading comprehension, that's part of the communication skills, then nothing will be restrained. So this is what God is clearly indicating through this narration in Scripture. So what has the human race, or even yourself, this applies to your own person. You see, I'm covering a lot of territory here, because the Bible just has it for you. Even you restrain your own self by poor language. When you have poor communication language, poor language skills, when you have poor reading comprehension, so that what receiving information is impaired because of comprehension, right? And then if you have other obstacles like attention deficit, I'm a psychotherapist, I'm also a foster therapeutic parent, and I forgot to mention that if you hear some noises, the autistic child that we have is sick today, so he's here and he may make noises, so please forgive if that occurs, or you understand. With children, there's no controlling. Or you also hear chickens, they don't have any mental situation. It's just that they're chickens. We're raising chickens, and we got the little chicks in this area right now, so you'll hear them like, oh, that's a lot of birds there. They're not parrots, or else they'll be teaching you this class, but they're actually chickens that are being raised up. They'll be out of here in about a couple of weeks. So all right, so anyway, so nothing will be restrained. So you're restraining yourself by not learning to read. You restrain yourself by not speaking properly. You are holding yourself back. You're actually shaping your future, shaping the opportunities that you have in your own life and for your family, for your own success, because of poor communication. You have to understand the communication and reading comprehension. Part of that communication is receiving. Learning to listen, learning to critical thinking, right? You have to understand what's coming in and be knowing how to think and reason these things. This is all part of communication. And when you have any deficiencies and you don't compensate, because you can't compensate, then you have a destructive force in your life. You don't need the devil. You just need not to know how to read. You don't need a devil. Devil doesn't need to bother you. As long as you got attention deficit, you don't need the devil. The devil is in your details, is in your deficiency. He can leave you alone all your life. You'll screw up by yourself. You don't need to blame the devil. It's just simply you're not paying attention deficit, to the things that imperil your ability to function and to progress. And these are things that you need to take care of. Okay, you need to seek help. If you have ADHD, for example, or ADD, or any of the other mental illnesses, you need to go and get help. Sometimes medication can lower that for you, can help you mitigate and allow you to focus a little bit so you can improve on your reading comprehension, you can improve on your verbiage and your communication, you can improve on your reasoning skills, and then have some progress in your life. So you really need to take care of these things. And if anyone has a deficiency in any one of these areas, you need to put more attention to that. Reading comprehension, read more. Look to communicate with somebody. Listen, I'm reading this, and this, can you sit down for a moment? I'm going to read this, and I'm going to tell you what I get from it. And can you inform me if there's anything that I'm missing? These are just things that you should do instead of playing a video game. That was cool, man. Instead of that garbage, or watching TV, this is really like, instead of that silliness, what you need to do is improve yourself. Improve yourself. And that way you don't get duped into some dumb religious idea and get trapped. Right? So again, this is what's happening in this world. You got a lot of problems. You got religions for all of these problems, believe me. But there's only one truth, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. So, getting back to this, the effect of people having one, I'm already up on the time, the effect of people having one language, where they all understand, they all have comprehension, little inhibition, little interference, little noise, nothing will be restrained, because noise is another thing. If you're in an environment that's noisy, then that will hamper you from developing as well, from accomplishing a task, from thinking through things well. So you need to seek quiet time, a moment where you can hone in one thought, and nothing will be restrained. You understand? So you have to focus. So this was the issue. Were there other pagan gods here worried about anything? No. Right? Was God looking at these demons that were running the show or anything? No. There's nothing. God is not telling you that there's anything else here other than the fact that there is a lot of people who believe in many things, believe in many different pagan gods, or there was maybe one pagan god. They had their religious belief, they had their religion. Doesn't matter. God is not even addressing that, because it doesn't matter. What matters is this big deal, because this big deal made these people capable of stopping at nothing. There is nothing that will be restrained once the people are one and have one language, and now nothing can stop them from anything they imagine to do. Which also goes to show you, even though these are primitive times, that we can, as human beings, what God is saying, that we can accomplish almost anything that we can imagine. If we can imagine it, we can do it. We can make it happen. Okay, so that is also something that the Bible, that God is teaching in his Bible. He said it before in a different way. He said he created man in his image and likeness. So when God created man in his image and likeness, then if we look like God in a way, then we would be creating. We would be able to have creative power to create things, to make things happen, to create solutions almost And then they moved themselves, those that could. Because remember, lest we die. Why did they say lest we die? Because the people saying that were not the ones on the ground, dead-like. Because if you get shaken up like this, you're going to end up on the floor. Okay? That's what the Hebrew word says there. There's actually like 99 different meanings, but look at it. Look at the context. Why didn't the King James put in the shaking there? So a whole lot of shaking going on. Because it didn't make sense to them. It's simple. When they translated the scripture, and even the Hebrews that wrote this in after the fact, they couldn't recognize this as shaking because it doesn't make any sense to people, hundreds of years after the fact. Right? But if people are shaking, I'm just telling you, if people are shaking and they fall to the ground, then Moses, you better speak with God and we'll listen to you, but don't let God keep speaking with us because we're going to die. I mean, people are falling. Look, that makes more sense contextually that something happened that looked like death. It looked like people were falling dead like flies after shaking, like a bug that you gave some radon and goes. They were shaking just like that. So that makes more sense here. And then, again, high place, people shaking. We don't hear about any glossolalia here. We don't see that. That's not being said. There's nothing to indicate that happened. All we have is the shaking thing that we see. It doesn't mean that's the only thing that happened. It's just simply the only thing that is being written here and said here. Okay. So then, now we have the mountain. Then, and let me just look for it here. I'll take a moment. Then what we have is another event which will be found in Genesis 28. So let's go to Genesis 28. So we have first the Tower of Babel where languages were mixed up. Genesis 28. We should have went there first, but okay, we'll go back to Genesis from Exodus. And in Genesis 28, we have the story of Jacob. And he dreamed, and behold, the people are as one. No, behold, a ladder set up on the earth. What's the ladder used for? For going to high place. And the top of it reached to heaven. Hello? It reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of God, which are the messengers of God, ascending and descending on it. So we have here another high place now with Jacob. The significance of this is that Jacob is Israel, right? Jacob represents the children of Israel, the chosen people of God, the people that God chose to be an example, to be a model of the saved, of those that we are living in accordance to the will of God, to the Word of God. They are in the teachings that you'll see in the Scripture in Exodus. We're going to show that to you in possibly the next lesson, Exodus 19, where it tells you the function of Israel, what they were supposed to do. They were supposed to be a teaching model. for God's salvation plan. So here, God is showing Jacob, he's taking the picture for us so that we can understand what God is doing. Now God is doing himself. Who's doing this tower? Who is making this ladder? God himself, not man with one language and one speech. God himself is making the ladder to heaven. And he's making that. He didn't permit Nimrod and the ancient Babylonians to do it. He saw they were trying to do it their own way. They were trying to reach God their own way, to heaven on their own account, which is what religion is. God did not allow it. And how didn't he allow it? By confusing the language. In other words, by making their languages distinct. Basically. That they not be all one people. And that they cannot, then they would be restrained from doing everything in their power, everything that they set out to do. All things are not possible. But now we see that God is creating a ladder. That he is creating, that he is sending and bringing forth and sending and receiving his messengers. Because that is the truth. If there's any true religion, that is it. Jacob's ladder. It is a symbol. Just like Jacob and the 12 tribes from his loins are a symbol of what God is doing. I just need a time check. I've gone over my time. Sorry about that, but this lesson requires it. And so this is a symbol of God's connecting with people, with his people. It's a symbol. But look at what is being used. The high place, the reaching to heaven. And we have, then after this, in Exodus, we have again the high place where God was, positioned himself, and then we have the shaking going on. So did you see that? Tower of Babel, you guys can't make a religion to me. You guys, a religion does not come to me. Okay? That's not the way to come to me, not through your religion. Your religion is not going to hack it. Then God makes a ladder, makes a way, he sends his messengers down and up, to Jacob, to Israel. Symbol, 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 symbol. That's not that Israel is the real thing, the final thing, no. It is as much as a symbol as the symbol was used in connection with it. That's how you know it's symbolic. Israel even is symbolic. Because the ladder was a symbol. So whatever's going on there with Israel and God, all of that is part of the symbolicism that God is using. And then you have Exodus 20, verse 18, all the shaking. Again, at the Jacob's ladder, at the symbol again of a mountain and heaven above, God, where God is, and Moses being the messenger going up and down, because before then, Moses was going back and forth between God and the people. Angels going up and down. Jacob's ladder. There we go. But now we have some shaking going on. All right. And then, obviously, now we can go to Acts, which will be the final stop of our lesson today. And in Acts, then we find that we'll find that the Spirit of God came upon those who were gathered together, right, on the day of Pentecost. And with this we'll end. What truly come, they were all with one accord in one place, and they were in the upper room. They were in a higher place. It wasn't a mountain, but they were upper, and they were seeking God. So spiritually now, they were at a higher place because they were looking and looking for God, waiting for a sign, and they were in more of a spiritual state. By the way, just like Israel at the mountain, because they also had to fast and had to become spiritual. That was the order that God gave Moses to tell the people. So they were really in the same type of state that these guys were in Acts 2. And what happened there? And suddenly there came a sound from the heaven as of rushing mighty wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting. And there appeared unto them cloven tongues, like as a fire sat upon each of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Ghost, and began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance. Now, what is it that they were given here? This is what is the glossolalia that is referred to in the modern church. But what was given to them? The ability to speak in other languages. There were people around from different places. And the Spirit of God gave them the ability individually to speak in other languages. Those languages are what? They're not man-made languages according to God, right? They are the languages that God gave them in the beginning in Genesis 11. Where he used the fact that they couldn't speak to one another, communicate, to be a restraining factor, so that they couldn't do whatever they imagined. Now, God is reversing that which he did in Genesis 11, because now it's Jacob's ladder. Now, it's the mountain of God. Now it is the truth that shall set you free. Now it is God connecting to man, not man connecting to God, which is what religion is. It is God connecting to man. And that is what's made the difference. Because now in Christ, all things are possible. Amen. Praise God. You see, the Bible, that you got to understand where all these things tie together. And it ties together in the fact that now there's nothing is to be restrained from the true child of God and the people of God, because the people of God now have the gift of tongues and the interpretation of tongues, which is a safeguard. That's why it was separated. It's a safeguard. I'm not going into that detail yet, but it is a separation to safeguard. But the gift of tongues, glossolalia, and the interpretation of tongues is the opposite or the reversal of the Genesis 11 Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel, man's religion, pagan and everything else, religious, was done away with. God doesn't want it. It's ridiculous. It's garbage. And it's replaced by Jacob's ladder, which was further enhanced with the mountain of God, where God gave to Moses the tablets, which was then replaced, if you will, or fulfilled or manifest in the upper room, Acts 2, in the church as the gift of tongues and the gift of interpretation of tongues and the outpouring of the Holy Spirit. That outpouring of the Holy Spirit, that experience is an integral part of the foundational teachings of Scripture, which is the point and reason why I wanted to bring this out to you here with the Tower of Babel in Genesis 11. It is an integral part. And I know there's been a lot of errors, a lot of lack of knowledge in regard to the speaking in tongues. That's true. But you cannot throw away the baby with the bathwater. And simply because the majority of people being stupid, because again, that is the thing, did not understand the gift of tongues. They, on both sides, people who were looking from the outside, that's crazy. The same thing happened all along here. Oh, we're going to die in the desert. Oh, we're going to die if God keeps this up. In the Acts 2, these guys are drunk. Look at them. They're all staggering. They're all shaking and staggering and falling down. Drunk people. That's what drunk people do. Really drunk out of their minds. Okay. And you come to the church, you see all these crazy people hopping, jumping, flipping around. Not all of it is true. Not all of it is genuine. Right. But there is authenticity and there is genuineness in some of it, because it again and you see the tie-in that it has in Scripture all the way back. All right, and not only that, there's so many things I can talk about that, and to talk about the glossolalia, which I can't do now because we ran out of time. See, because you guys don't like to study. But we'll go in next week. If I continue here, I will. If not, you'll have to catch it to some other teaching. But the thing is this: you cannot excuse away the correlation, if even by happen chance, which you can't believe. If you believe in God, there's no happen chance here. God is in control, or isn't he? It's as simple as that. But the striking correlation between Genesis 11 and the shaking and Jacob's ladder, and then Acts 2 and the glossolalia in the modern church, in parts of it, because again, everyone else wants to explain it away, throw out the baby with the bathwater, what have you. It's a gift of the Spirit. You can't just cast it off. And I think that's irresponsible. They say, oh, well, the Bible says it will end. It also says signs will end. I don't see that ending. All right? It says other things will end. It's all part of the same verse. Don't just take one thing out of it and just say it's all done. No. When science ends, you come out and then you tell us about it, okay? But in so far, science continues. And as far as science continues, then the gifts. The gift of the tongue and speaking in tongues continues on to. All right? And cannot be excused, because it is a vital weapon of the church. It is a tool. It is something that God is using. It's a sign. When he says it's a sign, no one talks about Genesis 11. But that's the bigger sign. See, that's the sign that no one talks about, because they haven't connected the dots. God bless you. And the evening and the morning, it's the next day. We'll see you next week. Thank you. God bless you. Remember, the Atheism Must Move Beyond seminar, part 2 will be Coming up April, you can attend in person or through the internet, but you must register for both atheists and for theists alike. If you believe in God, you need this. Adria Hotel Conference Center is growing, folks. Let's get there. Admission is free, so you have no excuse, but you must register so you can get the information and the link if you're attending via the internet.